So, on our last video of this week, we turned to Ian Dunt. Once again, I keep on saying this, and I've said this throughout the process. He has been one of the best writers on Brexit and what is going on. And I fully encourage you, go and follow this guy. Because he's on it, he's on the button all the time, presenting the knowledge really good, in a really good way. Like I say, go follow Ian Dunt. Good guy, go follow him. And he's talking about today Johnson's deal, the reality of what's being proposed. Because really, the question MPs are asking themselves today, because I'm doing this on Saturday and it is 12 o'clock, the real question is are we going to make ourselves poorer? Because the government impact assessment shows that every household will be £2,000 worse off under that deal. So, politics is in a frenzy. It is witnessing witnessing on a scale of political activity that you hardly ever see. Loyalties are fluid, the stakes are impossibly high, and the deadline is pulverising. MPs have until tomorrow to decide whether they'll back Boris Johnson's deal, which they could define the way the country operates for a generation. Everything is loud and very fast. The talk is mostly on numbers in Parliament. Occasionally it veers onto the provisions of the dual custom systems in Northern Ireland and the reliability of the level playing field concession, which makes sense. Where there's more votes, it will make or break. But is it extraordinary that we are not talking about the real issue of what is happening here? The actual underlying reality of this decision, of what it involves. And it is more than an elephant in the room. It is a monster, filling up all the space, breathing fire on us, and yet we are somehow managing to pretend that it isn't there while it sets our hair on fire. The issue is, what would Johnson's deal actually do to the economy of this country? It's not about Brexit. You can leave the EU and stay close to its trade regime. That is how you do Brexit. The Johnson deal is the hardest of hard Brexits. It pulls Britain completely out of the customs union and single market and envisions a very minor free trade agreement to replace it. It is not fashionable to talk about this now. These arrangements were made after the referendum. As Brexit bored on, all we desperately search for out are new areas of debate and focus on the aspects of which caused the most division in Parliament, and somehow we ended up in this place, where the fundamental choice we are about to make is bizarrely not discussed. You could watch dozens of hours of TV news without even a mention of it. So it's worth at least one time providing a reminder of what's actually going on before we're about to decide it. Taken together, the single market and the customs union are the most advanced examples of international economic cooperation in the history of mankind. They do two things. The customs union harmonises tariffs so that the goods pay no tax and experience no country of origin checks inside their territory. The single market aligns regulations so that goods can move freely without worries whether they are against the rules of one country or another. The project massively increases trade and improves the economy and well-being of the countries who are members of it. This means that investors from countries like Japan use Britain as a beachhead to Europe. It means services, a core and a criminally under-discussed part of the British economy, can sell their products all over the continent of well-off consumers. It means you get infinitely more than any trade deal, because it does not involve the country of origin checks, which makes exports more complicated and laborious. It just means just-in-time supply chains can operate with lightning efficiency because they know there will be no blockages. It keeps you locked in to one of the most advanced regulatory climates on Earth, with high standards for food safety, agricultural rules, workers' safety, environmental protection. it gives the UK access to major trade deals with countries like Japan, Canada, on terms of negotiating of using leverage of the massive European Union consumer market. And the second is secured using some of the most impressive trade negotiators in the world. It allows lots of medium-sized economies to club together so that they can go toe-to-toe with larger economies. China and the US can bully almost anyone. They're big enough, but they can't bully the EU. In a world that is slowly degenerating into dog-eat-dog system, without the old rules-based order, it offers strength and protection. Outside of that system, Britain is going to hurt. A recent report by the UK in a Changing Europe projected a reduction in the UK GDP per capita after 10 years of being 2.3 and 7% under Johnson's plan. The gap will definitely be wider when we try to make up for the loss by bringing in lots of immigrants and find a way to improve productivity. The best case scenario is that a 16 billion hit to public finances per year, and it's the 49 billion hit in a worst case. This will not be made up by securing new free trade deals overseas. These agreements are tiny and inconsequential next to the European project. The government's own analysis suggests that at its peak, British negotiating skills that they could only amount to an increase of GDP after 15 years of somewhere between 0.1 and 0.2. That's nothing. People's lives will be damaged. They will be poorer. They will be £2,255 a year worse off by 2034. The nation's finances will also be hurt. They will, in the end, be more austerity. And this will be done just as the world is in the most uncertain amid a bitter trade war between China and the US. And when the WTO is being brought to its knees by Donald Trump. In fact, that's something else that we haven't really discussed. Brexiteers are championing this WTO as if this is an amazing thing, and yet Donald Trump is doing everything it can to destroy it. And yet, this is apparently the amazing system that the Brexiteers want to join. These arguments are treated with scorn nowadays. We are told that people who still care about the economics have lost sight that it is a debate about identity and sovereignty. That's fine. It's about those things too. But when you experience hardship, everyone cares about economics. A man without bread is not concerned whether the regulatory decisions are made on lawnmower levels. We are about to sabotage our relationship with the most successful economic project in the modern world. It is the biggest decision we'll take in our lifetime, and one that if we do it, we'll regret for a long time to come. It's worth mentioning that the actual reality of what is happening at least one more time before MPs vote tomorrow. And that is the reality. That is the Brexit reality. There is no argument against that. When you take what has just been said there at its core value of how good the EU is, the single market, customs union, there is no argument against it. Brexit was an ideological project with no policies attached to it. It always was. There are no policies that the Brexiteers have ever produced for how to do Brexit successfully. Nigel Farage has never presented a plan. Jacob Rees-Mogg has never presented a plan. Daniel Hannan, who has spent, according to him, 40 years of trying to leave the EU, never, ever once presented a plan. And here we are, about literally probably hours away from MPs who vote for Johnson's deal and Brexit are voting for us to be poor and worse off in every single way possible. Brexit is just a dumb idea. And if you think austerity is bad now, wait to see what happens next.